Hello creative minds, welcome back to Style by Marvellgreg. If you're new here, you're welcome, and if you're an old subscriber, thank you for constantly supporting this channel. And today I'm going to be showing you how to draft a simple yet elegant scoop neckline Victorian corset from start to finish. Now this project is beginner friendly and it's also stylish because I'm going to be taking you step by step on how to come about a beautiful Victorian corset with a scoop neckline. Now if this sounds like what you're interested in, then do well to watch this video to the end, as I'll be showing you the techniques on how to come about a simple Victorian corset. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. So basically what you need for this tutorial is your pattern paper and all your drafting tools. And on my pattern paper, I've gone ahead to highlight my shoulder line, my bust point, my under bust, my waistline and my top length. So from my waistline to my top length, it's about 6 inches extra. So if you want your corset to stop at your waistline, you can just stop at your waistline. But for my waistline, I went down by extra 6 inches to get the top length for this corset. So next now is to begin imputing all our measurements, and the first measurement we are imputing is our shoulder line, which is about 7.5 inches. Then I went down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Then from that point I went 8 inches to get my chest line. You already know how we get our chest line. I'll also include that for you to see. Then the next step is to go ahead and mark what I have at my shoulder line. I marked it down at my chest line just to have an accurate straight line, and I'll connect it just like I've done here. Then I'll go ahead and label my chest line just like I've done. Then I'll be marking 3 by 3 inches, which is our basic neckline. We won't be needing this, but I'm just marking this just for the sake of this tutorial. Then I'll go ahead and connect my shoulder slope just like I've done here. So the next step now is to go ahead and impute the nipple to nipple measurement that you're working with. So I'm just going to impute the nipple to nipple measurement, and I'm going to impute it all the way to my top length, and I'll go ahead and mark a straight line to connect all these lines like so. So the next step now is to go ahead and impute our dart. So the dart I'm working with is 1.5 inches. So at my bust point I came down by 1 inches. Then at my top length I went out on my center front by ½ inches and on the other side by 1 inch. So you can do 2 inches or even 2.5, depend on how busted the person you're working with is. So I just went ahead to draw a straight line just like I've done here. Then I'll go ahead and connect with a curve point all the way to that point that I marked 1 inches below my bust point, just like I'm doing here in this video. So the next step now is to go ahead and get what I have at my shoulder line. I divided it by 2 to get the midpoint. Then I'm going to go ahead and connect it with my ruler all the way to the line depth that I marked for my nipple to nipple measurement. Then I went out by 1 inches. This is just to take out any gaping that we might have by the time we come about imputing the scoop neckline. So I'm just going to use my curved rule to connect it all the way to my butt point just like I've done here. So the next step now is to go ahead and impute our basic measurement, but before that I'm going to go ahead and mark what I have at my round bust divided by 4. I marked it there. Then what I have there I divided it by 2, which will give me 4 inches. So that 4 inches I went out by 0.5 inches, and I'm going to connect the 3 dots together to get our armhole curve. So I'm just going to curve it just like I'm doing here in this video, and I'll connect the upper part just like I've done here. So the next step now is to go ahead and impute all our measurements. So at that point, that chest line area, I'm not going to replace the dart that I took at that point because that's going to be serving as my tightening for that point. So what I'm going to do is to include all my circumference measurement. Then I will replace the darts at my under bust, my waistline and my top length. So I'm also going to go ahead and mark at my top length. What I use there is my round hip divided by 4, then I replace the 1.5 inches that I have there. So before I connect this line, I'm going to go ahead and snatch my waist a little bit. Before that, I went ahead to add my stitching allowance, just like I've done here. But like I said, I'm going to be snatching the waistline at this point just to give it that snatched effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out about 3 inches for my total waist measurement. So for instance, if you're working with a waistline of 38 inches, I'll take out 3 inches, and what I have, I'm going to divide it by 4, and I'm going to mark it and replace my darts and also include my stitching allowance. This is just to give that waistline a very snatched effect, so that when you are snatching it at the back with your loop at the back, you're going to have this snatched effect. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect all my lines neatly, just like I'm doing here. And I'll also go ahead and connect it all the way to my top length, just like I've done here. Remember that I've also added my stitching allowance on this pattern already. So you know how Victorian corset usually is. It usually have different dart lines. We're going to be imputing that later, and we're also going to be inserting our design at the under or at the down part as well. If you observe, it has a curvy part at the under. So at the under bust, you can also go ahead and snatch it, but I already took out about ½ inches when I was imputing my measurements on that part. So just go ahead and take out ½ inches. Then I'm going to be imputing a bust dart of 1.5 inches. That's the difference between the front and the back that I'm working with. So that part, we're going to take it out when we are cutting. I'll show you how to go about that neatly. So after doing that, now the next part now is to go ahead and at my chest line, I went up by 1 inches. Now we're going to insert our scoop neckline. I went up by 1 inches at my chest line. You can do ½ inches. Then at that point there, for my chest line, I went up by 5 inches. So from that 5 inches, I'm going to curve it all the way down to the 1 inches I marked. And before doing that, I will just go ahead and close up the dart at that shoulder point. Now you can see the essence why we included that dart there is just for us to avoid any gaping when stitching on our fabric. So just go ahead and curve it all the way. If you want your the cleavage area to show very well, go ahead and do ½ inches, or you can just use your exact chest line for this part. So I'm just going to highlight all my lines for you to see. So at the edge of my pattern, I went up by 2.5 inches. That's my side front. I went up by 2.5 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and curve it all the way to the center front of my pattern. And I'm also going to do this while closing the dart area as before I curve it. So at this point, just go with what you want. You can just curve it however you want it to curve, and keep curving it until you get exactly how you want the design to come out. And after doing that, you can go ahead and cut out. So I'll just highlight it with my marker, just like I'm doing here. And after doing that, you can see how beautiful our pattern has already formed. Okay, so when we are cutting, we'll go ahead and close up this part. By the time I close it, you can see that there's a little bit of space. So I'll just go ahead and align it with my marker, just like I've done. But I'm still going to leave it and cut it together with my fabric, with my pattern when I'm cutting it out. So that's basically all for this. Don't forget to label, and remember, like I told you, Victorian corset usually come in different dart lines. So you can just go ahead at this point and mark about 3 or 3.5 inches. I did 3.5 inches, and I'll just go ahead and mark a straight line all the way. So I'm just going to be having 3 patterns like so. So at this point here, I'm going to go ahead and cut out. So just pay attention to how I'm cutting it out, so that you don't end up cutting the part that you need. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and close my dart, and I'll go ahead and cut the down part just like you see me doing here. And I'll go ahead and cut the side. I closed it up just like I did here, just to get that part very well. You can see how I'm cutting it out. So just go ahead and do this. You can see how easy it is to come about a simple Victorian corset. So at this point you can have as many dot lines as you want, but I think this 3 dot lines is appropriate for this. So just go ahead and ensure you label your patterns before cutting on your fabric, and number them so that you know which side is which side, so you don't make any mistake when you're cutting on your fabric. Please don't throw away your pattern even after cutting on your fabric. Just keep it aside, as it's going to help you to know which one is which. So the next step now is to go ahead and cut for the back. The back is very easy. I've gone ahead to highlight, cut out our basic lines, my bust line, my waistline, and my top length. So the difference between my front and back waistline is about 1.5 inches. So after imputing that, I went down by 6 inches, just like I did for the front. So the next step now is to go ahead and impute all my basic round circumference measurements. So at my waistline, I used the same waistline that I used for the front for the back as well, and I'm just going to be connecting my lines just like I'm doing here. So it's very easy. So the next step now is to go ahead and highlight it for you to see. You can see how beautiful it has already come. So now from my chest line, I'm going to go down for my chest line because I want the back to be curvy a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and go down by 1 inches for my chest line. Then I'll go ahead and curve it all the way to the armhole point, just like I've done here, and that's going to serve as where our back is going to start from. Yeah, so the next step now is to go ahead and take out about 2.5 inches. So you can do 2 inches, but I'm taking out 2.5 inches for the opening for the back where we are going to be inserting our loop. I'm just going to mark it so that you will understand. So that part we're going to take it out. If you don't want to have that much opening, you can do 2 inches, depends totally on you. So at that point, I went by 2.5 inches to just create my curve, just the same way we did for the front pattern. And I'm also going to be adding another style line. So I'm just going to mark about 3.5 inches to get me another style line, so that I'm going to be having 2 patterns for the back where we're going to be imputing the boning. So that's basically all for this part. I hope you learned a lot from this tutorial. You can see how easy it is. This is just a simple step on how you can make a Victorian corset. So just go ahead and label appropriately all your pattern before you cut on your fabric. So after doing that, that's all for this tutorial. I hope you learned something from this. This is how your back look like. You can see how beautiful it's already looking on our pattern paper. If you have several tutorials on corset making on this channel, you can go and watch it for more understanding of other corset parts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something, and I'll be seeing you in my next video. Bye.